Rise and shine!
I got hairy legs.
Sometimes the words don't come out of your mouth the right way.
They know. They know. And they know I know.
There comes a time in every friendship when you have to say, I never liked you, get lost.
Thanks for the advice.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Me. I always tell them.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Here we go.
First thing is, I want to see us export more jobs.
And the way you treat other people are horrible.
Flying the monkey in the wrench. Pain in the ass.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
You kidding me?
Let's have an equipment check. Nothing. Let's keep it simple. You got your boots on, you won't compound.
He won't sell anybody out to buy his future.
Say what?
I show you how.
All of you relax. This is a matter of inconvenient timing, that's all.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Baldini. I have Ryan Michael McDonald here with me. We're going to take a little departure from what I usually do with my show. We're going to be doing an interview with Ryan because I have to say there was some scurrilous charges raised against him over this last week by a gentleman named Dev. I don't know how to say his last name. You know how to say Dev's last name? Goswami. I don't want to butcher it, Goswami, but Dev, I was interested in hearing what you have to say, and I'll give you the opportunity to respond to what Ryan has to say. And I'm going to interview him by asking him some of the questions and to answer the scurrilous charges raised against him in this event. Before I start, Ryan, you want to say anything?
No, pretty much have all my life for the last 2 or 3 years on the internet for NJ First. If anyone wants to see my work, it's there. I made an ebook as well for all the work and pretty much any opinions or friends I've made for the last 2 or 3 years. So pretty much speaks for itself.
So I also want to start off by saying, I'm actually on Ryan's Patreon. I'm one of the people who does give him money to continue his show and to continue his speech. And I also want to thank Hampton Diner, where we're at today, for giving us the opportunity. And I hope the noise in the background isn't giving you any difficulty. So, the charge has been raised that you, Ryan, are a white supremacist. And if I can, I'm going to read the quote that was given to me. He starts off, this is Dev talking about your time at Rutgers, New Brunswick, and he was outside of it, that he's made fun of for his white skin, blue eyes, etc. He starts this rhetoric off with multiple people, even minorities, and his classmates. He claims this is very well documented. I haven't seen any, but he says it's well documented. Then he goes with making a statement that he wants to start a whites-only group because the brown kids have won, justifying it with the fact that he is made fun of for his white skin and blue eyes. I made the joke a Latina girl was probably hitting on him, and he was too stubborn or naive to notice. Those were in parentheses, not parentheses, parentheses. The fact he has to announce his intentions in a circular argument like this is what makes me think he is a white supremacist. He could just easily make out without having to announce it. If you know anything about history or segregation, this is exactly what the rhetoric white nationalists like Richard Spencer used to justify their organizations by playing victims like Ryan has, and you could challenge the facts all you want. It is highly inappropriate, especially in our state with a diverse population, and second, will be a cancer to the party and not grow it in the long term, regardless of what he is doing in the short term. All right, so there's more, but we have limited time, so there's your chance.
Sure, and I'm just speaking off the cuff here because I can easily do that. It's a very long paragraph that he has there. Just real quick, I went to Rutgers, Newark. Never went to Rutgers, New Brunswick. Yeah, that's easily documented too. I mean, plenty of people online see me. My Facebook says it right there. Sorry for the noise, guys. But Dev and I had a conversation, and that's probably what he's referencing here. And I wish I could see that, but he said something referencing blue eyes and white blonde hair and white skin, being made fun of that. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I'm still made fun of that. It's the internet and the times that we're in society. I mean, people with identity politics, broad stroke, and just slander and use words and don't think they mean anything or have any consequences. And that's what happens on all sides, to every race, to all sorts of people. And in our conversation, I was talking about the critical race theory that I went through in the political science courses that I specifically took. And those courses, the discourse was brutal, very brutal. And I went into detail of how brutal it was. And it's very interesting that he didn't choose that to use as a reasoning for why maybe I said people didn't like me for blue eyes and blonde hair. Well, they've had other reasons too, that they were being taught at the school, that there was an institutional racism going on, that people were born a certain way. That's what I was taught. I went to school through a critical race theory curriculum. So that is just referencing that. I wish I could remember a little bit more, but he mentioned Richard Spencer. That guy voted Biden and endorsed Biden after being the leader of the alt-right. He went completely liberal, leftist. I campaigned for Donald Trump in Scranton. I don't know if there was any of the other New Jersey Republicans that went out of state to do that. And finally, I guess, last thing. What?
He does mention that you went to start a whites only.
Right. Okay. So I don't even think I ever said anything of that to him at all. Actually, I know I didn't say anything of that to him at all. Maybe he's referencing the NJ First group that I started, because again, he said I wanted to start this group at New Brunswick. I was there.
I think he's saying that you want to start one in
my school.
At the school,
right?
At your school.
Maybe he was meaning Rutgers Newark instead of New Brunswick. But when I was attending Rutgers Newark, I interned for the ACLU of New Jersey. I was actually with the libertarians and the leftists, just like everyone else in college at the time. So I don't really know what he was talking about there. He wasn't in that, I believe, is that he references libertarians, and libertarians as well try and slander me from all sorts of the Libertarian Party, I guess, and movement. But yeah, I'm open to talk about these things plenty. I have the conversations. I'll myself reveal them because they look pretty bad on Dev's part. Yeah, and I don't really say anything bad about him at all.
Let me ask the question that Trump was asked, I think, about 12 times or more, either through the campaign and the first campaign and in through to the end of the second campaign. Do you now, or have you ever supported white supremacy?
No, never.
Have you been affiliated in any way with any group that could be considered a white supremacist group?
No, never.
All right. So I'm going to now ask the second question as a follow-up to the first one, and it was also part of the discussion that came out in this particular group. So I want to see. I'm all about getting people to have the opportunity to speak. I think that one of the things that we don't do often enough is talk about what's going on, try to work them out. So I do want to reemphasize that if Dev wants to come on and do this, I'll give him the same opportunity that I gave Ryan, and I'll give him the chance to answer the questions just as legitimately as Ryan has. So how do you respond then to the call for you to speak? Because it was done by Chad Michael in one of his responses. He suggested that you should speak about how you support inclusion to prove you are not a racist. So
sure. Just like I started off with, for the last 3 years, I have it documented what I've been working on, who I've been working with, who I've been ousting or outing and calling out and going against. None of that is at all to even appear racist. So I don't know why I have to defend myself. Also, I mean, my history of college, I was the minority as an American. I lived with Koreans, I lived with Nigerians, I lived with Arabs, I lived with Europeans, I lived with so many people. And that's just to say that I love all people of all the world. I experienced it. I wanted to travel so much to experience it, but they came to me in New Jersey. And for the forced the forced verbiage that he wants me to prove I am not racist by saying I support inclusion, Jordan Peterson got famous because he said that he will not submit to the left in saying that he has to speak a certain way. He has to agree. He has to speak a certain way. He has to concede. And this is for specifically, I think, the transgender pronouns and many things. So for me to have to prove myself verbally, I mean, look at my work, look at my actions, what I've done, and where I've been, where I've lived, who I've lived with, the friends I've had. He made fun of me saying that the Latina was probably hitting on me. She thought I was cute. Yeah, I know. I dated them, dude. I loved them. They loved me. It was a great time. Yeah.
So I guess one of the other questions that came up is about bigotry within the party. One of the Matthew DeLilio Jusino, and apologize for any names. I mean, I went through school my entire life having people mess up my last name, so I understand if I upset you with your name, I apologize. It wasn't intentional. He states that throughout his time being a Republican, that he's seen bigotry in the party. And I guess by extension, he is trying to say that what you were saying is an example of that bigotry. And I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth. I'll read what he says. Over the last year, I have gotten involved with the party itself rather than just listening to talk radio and voting R. I must admit, some of the things I've heard people say have embarrassed me because there is bigotry in our party. Now, I must also state that it is a very, very small minority of people, but it does exist. A lot of people just want a strong second A and lower taxes. But some people are solely here to deport brown people. That's what he said. How do you respond to that?
Sure. So to respond to that, I don't listen to conservative talk radio. I don't vote down the line Republican, and I'm not even a Republican. That's in your party. A lot of people who vote Republican aren't even in the party, be it the state or the nation. They're just voting Republicans. And so he has a problem. He thinks that there is, if I'm taking his words, if he actually is meaning what he's saying, that there is an issue with the people in the party, the leadership. No, I don't think that there is a problem with either party's leadership, to be honest. I think there are fringe corners of every party, every single party, not just the duopoly. And also the bills that we have passed in New Jersey, our Assembly and Senate, the ones that they have signed, have listed New Jersey, blaming it for being systematically racist, specifically citing the school systems and how they have to diversify. Well, Republicans always talk about school choice. That's a way to diversify, but they signed on the bill saying that New Jersey is racist. And I don't see it.
What do you mean?
Systematically racist. They signed the for example, the Juneteenth bill, resolution S19. In the end, it's at the bottom. It says the reason why that they believe that New Jersey is systematically racist is because of the school systems, that they're segregated still. And I looked up into the history of it, and New Jersey actually wasn't abolished segregation. They weren't a part of that federal law that segregated schools. I forget specifically right now, but look it up. They abolished it in the Constitution.
I think if I can speak to that,
Yeah.
I think there's what I know is that I know that while Juneteenth has been something that's based out of Texas, right? That's where it's based. But at the same time that Juneteenth was happening in Texas, there were still people here in New Jersey that were classified by the federal government in IRS records as being not called slaves, but designated as indentured workers. So that is something that was going on. So it's almost seems, and I've written about this, seems hypocritical to be saying that Juneteenth is something you're going to celebrate here, when at that time, and honestly, in Texas, the only reason that there was anybody allowed to be freed was because there was a U.S. Army there that was forcing it. As soon as the U.S. Army left, where's the protection? And we know that that protection disappeared.
And there's actually a bill passed previously in New Jersey that was commemorative of Juneteenth. It did not make it a state holiday in which you got a paid leave, you got paid off. This bill specifically was to make it a state holiday, and most certainly for the rhetoric, the identity politics in it, inserting that it is now the second Independence Day in New Jersey. We have two, July 4th and June 19th.
All right, so we're at about 15 minutes, and I had told Ryan we were going to do this in about 15 minutes, and if we needed to go more, if he needed more to say, I'd give him the opportunity. Do you have any questions, Ryan?
No, I would love for more conversation to happen, more discourse to happen, and yeah, I think that people are lacking in not talking openly and freely, and I appreciate this, that you're doing everything that you've done.
Well, it's it's I have no problem. I'm willing to let anybody out there who feels that they've they've had some bad things said about them, I'll let them come on the channel, speak your mind, get the words out that you want to say. I do want to point out that part of my initial post in this was that we need to have a discourse on language, because I do think that there's a definite problem with the language that's being used, whether it's being used been organized and set up by the left, where we're following the language of the left, and where we're calling out people who are appropriate language. What is appropriate language? That's been set. The norm has been set now by the left for the last 20-30 years. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that we should be using the language of white supremacy. What I'm saying is we need to have an understanding of the language that's being used out there, because a lot of people don't understand the language. There's a lot of language out there that people are unclear on. And you're welcome to look at what I wrote. What I wrote was very clear, very plain. For example, we use the word Native Americans. Why are we naming people that we want to say are native here? Why are we labeling them with a European name? America is named after Amerigo Vespucci. That is an Italian name. So what is the deal with that? So I think that's kind of where I'm going with it. Why are we using any type of labels, hyphenating people's names, or they're these what they are, Italian American, Spanish American? Why are we hyphenating them? Aren't we all Americans? Aren't we those people who live here legally? Aren't we all Americans? And having said that, Ryan, any last words? No, welcome back. Welcome back anytime. Take care. We will see you on the flip side.
Rise and shine!
I got hairy legs.
Sometimes the words don't come out of your mouth the right way.
They know. They know. And they know I know.
There comes a time in every friendship when you have to say, I never liked you, get lost.